Naomi's hand shook as she tied the white ribbons on the wedding chairs. Outside the mansion, 300 guests would arrive in 2 hours. Inside, her heart beat like a drum before a storm. She didn't know yet that today, everything would shatter. Faster, Naomi. Victoria's sharp voice cut through the morning air. Victoria was a woman who adopted Naomi 13 years ago, when Naomi was just 5 years old. Back then, Naomi thought adoption meant love. She thought it meant family. She was wrong. Naomi moved quicker, her fingers working the ribbons even though they were already perfect. Perfect was never enough in this house. Why is she still here? Someone whispered behind her. It was Melissa, Victoria's real daughter. The bride, the princess of the family. Mother. She's making the guests uncomfortable just by existing. Naomi's chest hurt, but she kept her face blank. She had learned long ago not to cry where they could see. For 13 years, Naomi lived in the biggest room in the mansion's basement. It was cold in winter and hot in summer. While Melissa slept in a bedroom with crystal lights and soft carpets, Naomi had a small bed and a window that looked at the wall next door. While Melissa got new dresses every week, Naomi wore the same 3 outfits, washed by hand every night. But the worst part wasn't the cold room or the old clothes. The worst part was being invisible. Victoria never hugged her. Richard, Victoria's husband, never asked about her day. Melissa treated her like furniture, something useful but not alive. At family dinners, they talked and laughed while Naomi served the food. They took vacations to beaches and mountains while Naomi stayed home to clean. They had birthday parties with cake and presents while Naomi watched from the kitchen door. You should be grateful, Victoria always said. We saved you from the orphanage. We gave you a home. A home. Naomi used to think that word meant warmth and safety. Now she knew better. A home was supposed to have love. This mansion had everything except that. Naomi! Victoria's voice again, louder now. Come here. Now. Naomi walked across the marble floor. Her shoes made tiny clicking sound that echoed in the huge hall. Victoria stood near the front door, wearing a purple dress that probably cost more than a car. Beside her was Richard in his expensive suit, and Melissa in her white wedding gown that sparkled like snow in sunshine. Naomi stopped in front of them. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. We need to talk to you, Victoria said. Her voice was sweet like honey poured over poison. About your future. Naomi's stomach dropped. You're 18 now, Richard said, not looking at her. He never looked at her. You're an adult. It's time for you to move on. The words hit Naomi like rocks. Move on, she whispered. Yes, Victoria smiled, but her eyes were cold as winter ice. We've done our duty. We raised you, fed you, gave you shelter for 13 years. But today is Melissa's special day, and frankly, having you here is awkward for our guests. Awkward. Naomi couldn't breathe. They ask questions, Melissa said, adjusting her veil. They wonder why we have a charity case living with us. It makes us look poor, like we couldn't afford real help. Real help. The words burned. So we decided. Victoria continued, walking to the door and opening it. Today, right now you'll leave. We've packed your things. 2 suitcases. Everything you own. Naomi saw them then, 2 old brown suitcases sitting on the marble steps outside. Everything she owned in the whole world, stuffed into 2 bags. But where will I go? Naomi's voice cracked. I don't have money. I don't have anywhere. That's not our problem anymore, Richard said, finally looking at her. His eyes were empty. You're an adult. Figure it out. Please. Naomi begged, hating herself for begging but unable to stop. Please, I'll work harder. I'll stay in the basement. I won't bother anyone. I'll be invisible. Please don't. You've always been invisible, dear, Victoria said softly, cruelly. We're just making it official. The first guests were arriving. Expensive cars pulled up the long driveway. Women in beautiful dresses and men in perfect suits stepped out, laughing and smiling. Get out, Melissa hissed. Now, before anyone sees this embarrassing scene. Naomi's legs felt like water, but she moved. She walked through the door. She'd walked through 1,000 times. But this time was different. This time was the last time. She picked up the 2 suitcases. They were heavier than they should be, or maybe her arms were just weak from shock. Behind her, Victoria closed the door. Naomi heard the lock click. She stood on the marble steps of the mansion that was never really her home. Around her, wedding guests walked past, not seeing her. They never saw her. No one ever saw her. Cars kept arriving. Music started playing inside. Laughter floated through the windows. And Naomi sat down on the cold steps with her 2 suitcases, watching her entire world drive away in shiny cars and pretty dresses. She didn't cry. She was too broken to cry. The sun climbed higher in the sky. Her legs went numb from sitting. Her throat was dry. What now? Where could she go? She had no money, no friends. Victoria never let her have friends. No family. The only family she knew just threw her away like garbage. For 13 years, she survived by being quiet, by being invisible, by being grateful. But gratitude couldn't help her now. A shadow fell across her. Naomi looked up. A man stood there, tall and quiet, wearing a white suit that seemed to glow in the sunlight. He carried a wedding gift wrapped in silver paper. His eyes were dark and serious, and they were looking directly at her, not through her. At her. For the first time in 13 years, someone actually saw Naomi. "Are you okay?" he asked. 2 simple words. But they broke something inside Naomi's chest, something that had been frozen for so long she forgot it was there. And finally, she started to cry. The man didn't move away when Naomi cried. Most people would have. Most people got uncomfortable around tears. But he just stood there, patient as a tree, waiting. Naomi wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm fine. You should go inside. The wedding is starting soon." "I don't think you're fine," the man said gently. He set down his silver-wrapped gift and sat on the step beside her. Not too close, but close enough that she didn't feel alone anymore. "And I'm not going to that wedding." Naomi looked at him properly for the first time. He was maybe 30 years old, with kind eyes and a quiet strength that made her feel safer somehow. His white suit was perfectly clean, and he wore a silver watch that caught the light. "Why not?" she asked. "Because something more important is happening out here," he said, looking at her 2 suitcases. "What's your name?" "Naomi. I'm Marcus." He smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Those are all your things, aren't they? In those 2 suitcases." Naomi nodded. Her throat felt tight again. "And they asked you to leave today? On the wedding day?" Another nod. Marcus's jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists, then relaxed. "That's cruel," he said quietly. "That's unforgivably cruel." Before Naomi could respond, the front door burst open. Victoria stood there, her purple dress swishing. Behind her was Melissa in her sparkling wedding gown, and several guests who had come to see what was happening. "Naomi," Victoria's voice was sharp. "What are you still doing here? And who is this man? You're causing a scene." "I'm causing a scene?" Naomi's voice was small, but there was a spark of something new in it. Something that might have been anger. "Yes." Melissa stepped forward, her veil floating behind her like a ghost. "You're embarrassing us in front of our guests. Haven't you done enough damage just by existing?" Marcus stood up slowly. He was tall, much taller than Richard, who had also come to the door now. When Marcus spoke, his voice was quiet, but everyone heard every word. "She hasn't done anything wrong," he said. "She's sitting quietly on these steps. You're the ones making a scene." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "And who are you to speak to us like that? Do you know who we are?" "I know exactly who you are," Marcus said, and something in his voice made Victoria take a step back. "You're the people who adopted a 5-year-old child and spent 13 years treating her like a servant. You're the people who threw her out today with 2 suitcases and nowhere to go. You're the people who think money makes you better than everyone else." The guests gasped. Richard's face turned red. Melissa's mouth fell open. "How dare you? Victoria es putrid. We gave her everything. We saved her from the orphanage. She should be grateful." Grateful? Marcus's voice got harder, like steel wrapped in silk. Grateful for being invisible? Grateful for sleeping in a cold basement while your daughter slept in luxury? Grateful for being told she's an embarrassment on the day you discard her? She was fed and clothed, Richard said stiffly. We fulfilled our legal obligations. Legal obligations? Marcus repeated. His eyes were dark with anger now. Is that what a child is to you? An obligation? A checkbox to mark off. Naomi stared at Marcus. No one had ever defended her before. No one had ever stood up for her. No one had ever been angry on her behalf. It felt strange and wonderful and terrifying all at once. This is none of your business, Victoria hissed. You don't know anything about our family. I know enough, Marcus said. Then he turned to Naomi. Do you have anywhere to go? Any family? Any friends? Naomi shook her head. No one. Any money? Another shake. Marcus turned back to Victoria and Richard. You're sending an 18-year-old girl into the world with nothing. No support. No resources. No safety net. You call that fulfilling your obligations? She's an adult now, Melissa said, adjusting her dress. She can take care of herself. Stop being so dramatic. Dramatic? Marcus's voice dropped to a whisper, which was somehow scarier than shouting. Let me tell you a story. Everyone went quiet. 15 years ago, Marcus began, I was a different person. I was building my first business. I was hungry and driven, and I thought money was everything. One day, I was in a park, stressed about a deal that was falling apart. I sat on a bench with my head in my hands. He looked at Naomi. A little girl came up to me. She couldn't have been more than 3 years old. She was holding a flower, just a dandelion, the kind most people think is a weed. She gave it to me and said, Don't be sad. That was all. Then she ran back to her mother. Naomi's breath caught. I kept that flower, Marcus continued. I pressed it in a book. I still have it. That small act of kindness from a stranger's child reminded me that there's more to life than money and deals and success. It reminded me that people matter, that small gestures matter. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small leather wallet. From it, he took a faded photograph. He showed it to Naomi. It was a picture of a little girl holding a dandelion. The girl had dark hair and brown eyes and a shy smile. The girl was Naomi. I never forgot you, Marcus said softly. I never forgot that moment of pure kindness from a child who had no reason to care about a stressed stranger in a park. I looked for you for years, but I could never find you, until today. Naomi's hands were shaking. She remembered that day, barely. She remembered her mother, her real mother who died in a car accident a year later. She remembered picking flowers in the park. She remembered a sad man on a bench. You remembered me? Naomi whispered. I never forgot, Marcus said. And when I saw you sitting here with your suitcases, looking lost and alone, I knew it was you. I recognized your eyes. The same kind eyes that saw me when I was struggling. He turned to Victoria and Richard. So yes, this is my business. Because this girl showed me kindness when she was 3 years old, and I will not stand by while you throw her away like garbage. The guests were completely silent now. Some looked ashamed. Others looked angry at Victoria and Richard. Victoria's face was pale. This is insane. You're insane. Richard, call security. No, Marcus said firmly. You call security, and I'll call every news station in the city. I'll tell them how the wealthy Harrison family treats their adopted daughter, how you parade your charity work at fundraisers while you neglect a child at home. I wonder what that will do to your reputation. Richard and Victoria exchanged glances. Their perfect image was everything to them. Marcus turned to Naomi. He knelt down so they were eye level. Naomi, I'm going to offer you something, and I need you to really think about it. No pressure. No obligation. Naomi's heart pounded. I own a company. I have resources. I have connections. But more than that, I remember the kindness you showed me, and I want to return it. I'm offering you a place to stay, a real education, and help finding your path in life. Not as charity. as repayment for a debt I owe to a 3-year-old girl who saved my day with a dandelion. Tears streamed down Naomi's face. But, Marcus said seriously, you have to choose. I won't force you. If you want to figure this out on your own, I respect that. If you don't trust me, and you shouldn't trust too easily after what you've been through, I understand. But if you want help, real help, I'm offering it. Naomi looked at the mansion behind her. 13 years of pain lived in those walls. She looked at Victoria and Richard and Melissa. 13 years of being invisible. She looked at Marcus, a stranger who saw her, who remembered her, who was offering her something she'd never had before. Hope. Naomi's voice shook. I don't know how to trust people anymore. That's okay, Marcus said gently. Trust isn't built in a moment. It's built over time. I'm patient. Naomi took a deep breath. Yes, she whispered. Then louder, yes, please, help me. Marcus smiled, a real smile warm as sunshine. He stood and offered her his hand. Naomi took it, and for the first time in 13 years, she didn't feel invisible anymore. Naomi's hand felt small in Marcus's grip, but his warmth spread through her fingers like sunlight melting ice. She stood up, her legs wobbling slightly, and faced a family that had never been a family. Victoria's face twisted with anger. You can't just leave with a stranger. This is kidnapping. Richard, do something. I'm 18, Naomi said quietly. Her voice was soft, but something had changed in it. Something new and strong. I'm an adult, remember? You just told me that. Adults can make their own choices. Those were the first brave words Naomi had ever spoken to them. Melissa laughed, a mean, sharp sound like breaking glass. Oh, please. You'll be back in a week, begging to clean our toilets again. You have no skills, no education, no future. You need us. Naomi felt Marcus's hand squeeze hers gently, giving her courage. No, Naomi said louder now. I don't need you. I never needed you. I needed a family. I needed love. I needed people who saw me as a person, not a servant. And you gave me none of those things. Richard stepped forward, his face red with embarrassment. The wedding guests were watching everything now. Phones out, probably recording. The perfect family's perfect image was crumbling like old paint. After everything we did for you. Richard shouted. We took you in. We fed you. We gave you a roof over your head. You gave me the basement, Naomi said, and her voice didn't shake anymore. You gave me your old clothes and your leftover food. You gave me orders and insults and silence. But you never gave me what a child really needs. You never gave me love. Victoria's mouth opened and closed like a fish. She had no words. For once in her life, she had no words. You know what's funny? Naomi continued, and tears rolled down her cheeks, but they weren't sad tears anymore. They were angry tears. Free tears. I used to think something was wrong with me. I thought if I was quieter, more helpful, more invisible, maybe you'd love me. But now I understand. There was never anything wrong with me. The problem was you. Melissa's face went pale. How dare you? No, Marcus interrupted, his voice calm but firm. How dare you? How dare all of you? You had a beautiful child in your home for 13 years. A child who would have loved you if you'd let her. And you wasted it. You wasted her childhood. You wasted her trust. You wasted every chance to be decent human beings. He picked up both of Naomi's suitcases easily, one in each hand. Come on, Naomi, he said gently. Let's go. But Naomi wasn't quite finished. She had 13 years of words trapped inside her chest, and they wanted out. She looked at Victoria, really looked at her for the first time as an equal, not as someone beneath her. I hope your wedding is beautiful, Naomi said. I hope you laugh and dance and celebrate. And I hope that when you lie in bed tonight, you think about the little girl who set your table and tied ribbons on your chairs and asked for nothing but kindness. I hope you remember that I existed, because I'm going to remember. I'm going to remember everything. Victoria's eyes filled with tears, but Naomi didn't know if they were guilty tears or angry tears, and she realized she didn't care anymore. She turned to Melissa. I hope you have a wonderful marriage, Naomi said. I hope your husband treats you better than you treated me. I hope you learn what real love looks like. And I hope you never, ever do to another person what you did to me. Melissa looked away, unable to meet Naomi's eyes. Finally, Naomi looked at Richard. Thank you, she said, and Richard looked surprised. Thank you for showing me exactly what kind of person I don't want to be. Thank you for teaching me that money doesn't make you good. Thank you for proving that I can survive anything, even you. Richard's face crumbled. He suddenly looked old and small and ashamed. Naomi took a deep breath. The air tasted different now. Freer, cleaner. She turned to Marcus. I'm ready. Together, they walked down the marble steps. The wedding guests parted like a sea, staring at them. Some looked impressed. Some looked ashamed. Some were definitely recording on their phones. By tomorrow, the Harrison family's cruelty would be all over social media. But Naomi didn't look back. Marcus led her to a sleek black car parked at the end of the driveway. He opened the door for her, the passenger door, not the back seat. He treated her like she mattered, like she was important. Naomi slid into the soft leather seat. It smelled new and expensive, but more than that, it smelled like possibility. Marcus put her suitcases in the trunk and got into the driver's seat. He didn't start the car right away. Instead, he turned to her. Are you okay? He asked. Naomi thought about it, really thought about it. I don't know, she said honestly. I am scared. I am angry. I am sad. But also, I feel lighter, like I've been carrying something heavy for 13 years, and I finally put it down. Marcus nodded. That makes sense. Healing isn't fast, Naomi. It takes time. There will be hard days ahead. Days when you doubt yourself. Days when you remember the pain. But I promise you, you're not alone anymore. Why are you doing this? Naomi asked. I gave you a flower when I was 3. That was 15 years ago. Why do you care so much? Marcus was quiet for a moment, thinking. Because kindness matters, he said finally. You showed me kindness when you were just a baby, really. You had no reason to care about a stranger's feelings. But you did anyway. That purity, that goodness. It changed my whole day, maybe my whole life. I became successful, yes, but I also became someone who tries to see people the way you saw me that day. Really see them. He started the car. The engine purred softly. And because, Marcus continued, everyone deserves at least one person who believes in them. You didn't have that for 13 years. Now you do. As they drove away from the mansion, Naomi watched it shrink in the side mirror. The white pillars, the perfect lawn, the marble steps where she'd sat with her 2 suitcases, thinking her life was over. But her life wasn't over. It was just beginning. Where are we going? Naomi asked. First, lunch, Marcus said with a small smile. When was the last time you had a real meal? When you didn't have to cook yourself? Naomi thought. I don't remember. Then lunch. After that, we'll go to my house. I have guest rooms, and you can pick whichever one you like. Tomorrow, we'll figure out what you want to do next. School? Job training? College? Whatever you want, we'll make it happen. But today, you rest. You eat. You breathe. You remember that you're free. Free. The word felt strange and wonderful in Naomi's mind. They drove through the city, past tall buildings and busy streets, full of people living their lives. People who had no idea that today, one girl's entire world had shattered and rebuilt itself in the span of a few hours. Marcus, Naomi said softly. Yeah, thank you for remembering me, for seeing me, for caring. Marcus glanced at her, and his eyes were shiny with emotion. Thank you for being the kind of person worth remembering, he said. The world needs more people like you, Naomi. People who give dandelions to sad strangers. People who endure cruelty and still stay kind. You're stronger than you know. Naomi didn't feel strong. She felt broken and scared and confused. But maybe, she thought, maybe strength wasn't about feeling powerful. Maybe strength was about getting up after you've been knocked down. Maybe strength was about choosing hope when giving up would be easier. Maybe strength was accepting a hand when someone finally offered one. The car stopped at a red light. Through the window, Naomi saw a little girl walking with her mother, holding a bunch of yellow flowers. The girl was laughing, and her mother was smiling down at her with pure love. Naomi's heart ached, but it wasn't a bad ache. It was the ache of something healing, something growing. "I'm going to be okay," Naomi whispered, more to herself than to Marcus. "Somehow I'm going to be okay." "Yes," Marcus said firmly. "You are, and I'll be here to help make sure of it." The light turned green, and they drove forward. Behind them, the mansion and its cruelty grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. Ahead of them, the road stretched out bright and wide and full of possibility. Naomi had spent 13 years being invisible, but now, finally, she was seen. Now, finally, she mattered. Now, finally, she was free. And that was just the beginning. If this story touched your heart, if Naomi's journey from darkness to light moved you, then please like this story to let us know it mattered. Share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not invisible, that they matter, that there's always hope even in the darkest moments. And subscribe for more stories about courage, kindness, and the power of being truly seen. Because everyone deserves to be more than invisible. Everyone deserves to be loved. Everyone deserves their own Marcus, someone who remembers, someone who cares, someone who says, "You matter." Thank you for reading Naomi's story. May you always see the invisible people around you, and may you always be brave enough to reach out your hand when someone needs it most.